Hello, I'm Jessica Stickler. This is Caroline. Today we're going to talk about hyperextension. So start in a forward fold. This is a good way to start to look at hyperextension, and conveniently, you're also looking at your own legs, which is helpful. So Carolyn, if she just sends her knees straight back, so like the old version of straightening the legs. Whenever someone told you to straighten your legs growing up, you just locked the knees back, and that's what we called straight legs. But when you're hyperextending, straight legs actually doesn't look straight at all. There's oftentimes the appearance of sort of a curve in the legs where the knees, the line of the knees falls sort of behind the line of the hips and the ankles. Caroline has a little bit. She doesn't hyperextend a whole lot. But whether you hyperextend a little or a lot, here are some useful ways to practice. So first of all, we're going to redefine what straight legs mean. So you're going to bend your knees a little bit, and you're going to bring your knees right over your ankles so that your lower leg is perpendicular to the floor. And now, instead of thinking about straight legs as locking the knees back in space, ew, never do that again. You're going to keep the knees over the ankles, and you're going to straighten your leg by carrying your hips forward over your lower legs. If that means that your legs don't straighten all the way, that's okay. Feel free to keep the knees a little bit bent for now. But I want our new definition of straight to be more of a geometry definition of straight, meaning lower leg lining up with upper leg, rather than straighten your legs, meaning feel the backs of your knees, right? Okay, so let's look at how that plays out in some other poses. Go ahead and come up to stand. Good. And actually, you can stay facing this direction. So sometimes in tadasana, if you lock the knees back and you have hyperextension, one of the things that can happen is because that sends your weight back, you might get in the habit of gripping the toes or gripping in the ankles. Sometimes you see the appearance of sort of tendons or tension in the fronts of the feet or the ankles with hyperextenders because they're almost putting their bodies in the sensation of falling backwards. So their entire front body has to grip to sort of keep them upright. So even in Tadasana, we're going to sort of rework our definition of straight legs. Here's one thing we can do. We can shift our understanding of straightening our legs to an understanding of extending our legs. Now, the word extend has this sort of movement inside of it. It has this sort of infinite quality rather than just straight as a permanent condition, right? So bend the knees, but keep the upper body upright. Think about this. Somewhere between bent knees and all the way straight, there's a halfway, nope, keep them bent. Somewhere between bent and straight legs, there's a halfway mark. See if you can straighten the legs just halfway to straight. And then pause there. And then again, imagine a halfway point between where we are now and all the way straight, and just extend to that halfway point. And somewhere between there and straight, there's going to be a halfway point. And even though the movements are getting infinitesimally smaller each time, there's still this sensation of extension and movement within the pose without just locking the knees back. Okay? Here's another pose where it comes up a lot, triangle pose. So turn to face the side, open the legs wide, and turn the right toes out and the left toes in, preparing for triangle. So go ahead and come into triangle the way that you normally would. Yes. So again, Carolyn has a little bit of hyperextension, not too much, but sometimes in triangle pose, you would see the sort of knee coming past this line between the ankle and the hip. And that's not great on the knee joint. We want to support the knee by having a properly straightened leg. So come all the way up to standing again. Here's one way to find that. Bend the knee a little bit. And now only straighten the leg insofar as you're bringing the lower leg in alignment with the upper leg. So you got to use your yoga x-ray vision a little bit and just come into a straight leg, into our new concept of straight leg, and not past that. If that one didn't make sense to you, or you can't feel that readily in your body yet, here's another way to find it. Bend the right knee. Instead of thinking about straightening the leg from the knee's perspective, I want you to think about pressing the right foot down into the floor in order to extend the leg. And there's something about shifting our attention to the right foot pressing down rather than what the knee is doing that keeps us from locking out that knee. Here's even a deeper way to go into that. So bend the right knee again. Lift your right heel up, your heel. Feel the calf muscle, the back of the lower leg engaging. And then keep that calf muscle engaged. Just lower the right heel down, but don't let that part release. Keep your knee bent. Keep your knee bent. Just lower the heel, but keep the calf muscle. That's it. Lift the heel one more time. Really feel the strength of that lower leg. Now, keep that engaged. Just lower the heel down, but don't let the calf muscle release. Now, keep the calf muscle active. Slowly start to extend the leg, but don't let this part release. As long as the lower leg muscle is engaged, the leg cannot lock out. Good. Really good. Okay. Let's look at one more thing about hyperextension with relation to the arms. So can you come into a downward dog with your hands like here? Yeah. Okay. So if someone who hyperextends were to lock their elbows all the way out, you would get that sort of bowing shape in the arms. And oftentimes it's very hard to feel where straight is. So again, I want you to think about lining up the lower arm bone and the upper arm bone. You might even have to look in your own body to see the arm bones lining up into a straight situation. So you're not going to have that feeling of locking the elbows out anymore. But again, because you're so used to locking the arm bones out, in order to feel what straightness feels like, it might take some readjustment. So feel free to use visual cues. Rest your knees on the floor for a second. Here's another way to sort of trick the muscles into doing the work for you. Come into downward facing dog again. Actually, just come to hands and knees first. Yeah. Now, without actually moving your hands, bend your elbows a little bit. Don't move your hands, but scrub your hands towards each other as if you want to bring the hands together, but then don't. Yeah, so the hands don't move. And then keep that element of scrubbing the hands towards each other, and now try to straighten your arms and come into downward dog. But keep the hands scrubbing towards each other. Good. So again, we're waking up the muscles of the lower arm and the upper arm to prevent that locking out feeling from happening. It takes a lot of practice, and this version takes a lot more muscle strength than you're used to using in your arms in downward dog. So if you get tired sooner, please honor that and take rests, but keep practicing. And ultimately, this will give you a much clearer pathway of weight through the arms and through the legs in all of your poses.